To talk more about the impact of cuts by the Trump administration that are dismantling essential services provided by the federal government, we turn to some of the voices featured in a new series made by members of Federal Workers Against DOGE, which now has about 2,000 current and former federal workers. The project is called I Do Solemnly Swear and features a dozen current federal workers across agencies like FAA, CDC, EPA, and the IRS. They shared their testimonials anonymously. This is an employee of the Internal Revenue Service speaking about tech companies collecting data from the IRS.
You've got contractors like Palantir coming in, and you've got Microsoft and all of these tech guys who were standing at the inauguration together, working together with federal agencies on your data, on your information. And I have not read enough sci-fi novels to see or to understand what's coming or what's happening. I'm trying to piece together how the IRS is going to shift away from tax compliance and the fairness aspect into using the IRS criminal investigation officers as police officers. We don't think that the people that were elected are now the people that they warned us about. We can't comprehend that our data is going to be used in malicious ways by the federal government. So now, who's the bad guys? And we just don't know. But what we're seeing is this administration is testing everything, including laws. Hey, can we get away with this? I would bet that in the long term, what we will see is that government will have to repair the damage that is being done by DOGE.
So that was an Internal Revenue Service worker featured in the new series, I Do Solemnly Swear. This is another testimonial featuring a FAA, a Federal Aviation Administration worker, describing the FAA regulations being removed.
You know, we say at the FAA that our rules are written in blood. And what that means is every rule that we have to regulate air traffic control and pilots, every single one of those was created because there was a disaster and people died. We have people coming in to FAA now saying they know a better way to do it when they don't even know why FAA does things the way it does. The rules are not written in crayon for people to come in and try to haphazardly change things without recognizing that when things were done a different way, people died. It's so difficult to see people who really do want to do the job well put into these awful situations where they're forced to choose between protecting the public or protecting their jobs. That's not something we should have to choose between. When you see leadership cutting corners instead of doing their due diligence, firing people indiscriminately, no matter how mission critical they are. You know, I think if you asked me today if I would feel safe getting on a plane in this country, I would say yes. You know, maybe I'm an optimist, but I believe in our frontline staff, and they work so hard to make this one of the safest places in the world to fly on an airplane. But, you know, ask me that question again in 6 months, and I might give you a different answer.
So that's a Federal Aviation Administration worker, a worker at the FAA, featured in the new series, I Do Solemnly Swear. For more, we're joined by the series director and co-producer, Laura Nix, a Peabody Award-winning, Oscar and Emmy-nominated filmmaker. Welcome to Democracy Now!, Laura. Congratulations on this audio series. Talk about the significance of it now. I mean, even as you come out with this series, a number of the people that you spoke to who were still working, so wanted to protect their identities, have been fired or laid off or rift reduction in force.
Thanks for having me. The series is speaking to people who are, I'd say almost everyone in the series is still working inside the government, and that's why they've remained anonymous. They spoke to us at great risk because right now, if they were able to reveal themselves, they would probably be fired or they could face the risk of criminal prosecution. But what we learned from them is how essential services that Americans have thought that we could depend upon for decades are being dismantled across almost every agency in the government.
Can you talk about what happened to the EPA workers who signed, I think it was about 150 of them, who signed a declaration of dissent? Weren't most of them immediately escorted off out of their offices?
By signing that dissent, they were all immediately put on administrative leave. And that includes one of the people that we interviewed in the series, who was not the woman who spoke earlier, but another person. And the risk of people being able to speak out right now is highly dangerous for them. And that in and of itself should be an alarm bell for all of us, that people just can't even talk about what's going on inside their workplaces. That's why we did these interviews.
This is an EPA worker discussing his fears about the future as DOJ continues to slash funding and fire workers.
They're slashing government funding, firing career employees. Why are we cutting all these employees? No one can give us answers. Our water, our air, our land are protected by people, and it doesn't magically happen that these programs exist and people are healthy. The environmental justice employees are the ones that are protecting our most vulnerable populations, and they're going to be let go because of Trump's DEI agenda. Environmental justice isn't a buzzword that's meant for political advantage. In wealthy, affluent neighborhoods, you don't find, garbage dumps. You don't find factories. You don't find cancer alleys. The environmental justice is a science. We're making sure that these polluting industries don't get away with it scot-free. You create this exodus of knowledge. There's not going to be these scientists to protect the people from deadly contaminants. People forget that federal workers are also taxpayers. And I can assure you and everyone else that as taxpayers, we don't want what they're doing. DOJ is harming the public. It's harming the taxpayers. The real profound impacts aren't going to be within his presidency. It's going to be everything that happens in the future, and we might not even realize it's happening when it does. That's what's keeping me up at night.
That's an environmental EPA worker, part of Laura Nix's remarkable series, I Do Solemnly Swear. One of the Veteran Health Administration VA employee warned that suicide prevention lines for veterans are understaffed and overwhelmed, raising alarm for life or death consequences. I think that population, veterans, is one of the largest suicide rates. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I was really struck by the VHA worker that I spoke to. They're incredibly dedicated to their veteran clients, and they spoke very emotionally about how worried they are about their welfare in the future. And, the series is directed, my co-creator, Mark Weiss, and I felt it was very important to focus on not just the illegality of the firings, but the impact on Americans of the hollowing out of these services and benefits. And we've depended for a very long time thinking that these benefits and the safety of our highways, our water, our airspace is safe. But we're learning that these are all being taken away. In the instance of VHA,
we have 10 seconds.
Okay, this is a population that needs help, and they're very dedicated. These public servants are dedicated and committed to providing services. We have to leave it there.
I think 18 veterans die by suicide each day.
Well, that Mexican took my job. He ain't took your job. He was given the job. Given the job by who? The people who give out jobs. Well, who are they? Duh. Have you ever had a job? Who gave it to you? Right, Come on. Stop lying to yourself. That's what I say to all the black people throughout the world.
President Trump's aggressive immigration enforcement is being felt across the country. Immigration arrests have gone up in every state and more than doubled in 38 states. The biggest increase is happening in Idaho, where since January 20th, ICE has made more than 300 arrests. One Idaho farmer, Shay Myers, who grows onions and other vegetables, is speaking out on behalf of his immigrant workforce.
I know the undocumented workers that we're talking about deporting because I grew up in a small farming town. I went to school with kids that were undocumented. My kids go to school in a small town with kids who may not be documented. If we're going to do things the right way, we need to think about the human, ethical side of mass deportation.
And farmer Shay Myers joins me now. Shay, thank you so much for being here. You voted for President Trump. He was very clear during his campaign that he would do the things that he is now doing on immigration. But you have been critical of some of these policies. I'm curious as to why you chose to speak out.
Hey, William, thanks for having me on. I chose to speak out because it's wrong. It's wrong for the people who have been here for decades upon decades and who contribute on a daily basis to every aspect of the U.S. economy, every aspect of the U.S. culture. They're an important part of who we are.
But that message, what you're saying in the Republican Party in particular, that's not a common theme that you hear.
That is true. It isn't a common theme. I think, but in a lot of ways, whether it's left or right, whether it's Democrat or Republican, there's a very, very big misunderstanding about what it means to be an immigrant in the United States, what it means to be a falsely documented immigrant in the United States. And so really the message needs to be spread to everyone so that they can understand it. And certainly the right-wing Republicans have a hard time understanding, many of them, the reality of the contribution that immigrants play in the United States, and the role they play on our farms and in our factories and in our hotels and in every aspect of the culture. But, you know, the only thing we can do is to try and speak up and speak out.
Amongst the immigrant workforce that you have, do you hear from them about, I mean, how are they feeling in this moment, seeing the news of these arrests around the country?
You know, they're frustrated. They're scared, but more than anything, they're feeling like they're being judged in a way that they never have before. Just a few years ago, during the middle of COVID, they were deemed to be essential workers, essential to the survival of our country. Right. And we were praising farm workers for what they do and the contribution that they made and the food that they provided us. And all of a sudden, they're like criminals. Right. And so they suddenly found themselves in a place where they're losing their footing and they don't understand why the harsh judgment when such a short time ago, they were so important.
The president at one point, sort of citing what you're exactly talking about, floated the idea of not targeting farm workers, though his ag secretary, Brooke Rollins, recently said that's not the case. What would you like to see done about immigration reform in this country?
Yeah, I mean, in that aspect, President Trump is right. And Brooke Rollins didn't say that there wasn't a path to citizenship. What she was saying is there was an amnesty. And I agree with both of those sides. As an advocate for immigrants, I want them to be able to feel comfortable, to be able to do their job, to be here in this country because they have done the right thing. In contributing to our economy and to our culture and to our society. But at the same time, we can't just give them, you know, their citizenship. And the idea that someone who has proven that they've worked in the United States for several years, that they've been contributing and paying taxes and participating in that way should have a way to get a legal working status to be here in the United States. And that's partially because if we don't have them, then we don't provide the food for people in this country. And that's the part that people miss. We snap our fingers and every immigrant, undocumented worker has gone from this country. We will not eat in this country. And it sounds like an exaggeration, but it is not. We will not eat. We will starve. If tomorrow we said, hey, all of you that are illegal, you're not going to work. You're out of the fields and you're out of the country. We won't eat.
I hear everything you're saying, but let's just say you decide to hang up your farmer's hat and run for office in your own Republican Party. You know you don't have a chance even getting through a primary talking like that. How do we fix that?
You know, I'm not sure that in this world anymore. I hope that I do. Now, as a Republican, I'm not going to win. But you're not incorrect there. But I think as a common sense citizen of this country, if I came to people, I think there's enough people from the center of the aisle, from both sides, whether they're a Republican or a Democrat, that they would listen to what I had to say and they would understand it. Because, you know, on the far left, I have problems, and on the far right, I have problems. But in the middle, there's a lot of people that understand that we need to fix this and we need to fix it badly. for the economics of the country and for the ethics of the people.
In addition to being what sounds like a very successful farmer, you also have a great social media presence, and you sometimes turn your social media over to some of those immigrant workers. Let's hear a little bit from one of those clips.
Every time you see food on your table, every time you see or you enjoy a really good steak, you should think about immigration as good. Those jobs that sometimes you don't think about it. We are grateful for this country. Immigrants shouldn't mean bad.
That appeal to both see the connections between our food and the immigrants who help produce it is clearly, as you've been saying, meant to humanize the people who are in this country helping us. Who are you trying to speak to, putting those voices out there?
You know, I'm trying to speak to the human heart is really what I'm trying to speak to. Like we all need to understand the contribution that these folks make and the necessity that we have as an economy, as a country, to have them here. Immigrants have been part of our system since the beginning of our country. They have come, they have contributed, and they have made a difference both for themselves and to lift up and improve our country. And they're a necessary part of everything. And I just want everyone to realize that that is the case, and they're real people.
Shay Myers, farmer from Idaho, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me.
Tamarla Owens was the mother of the 6-year-old boy. In order to get food stamps and health care for her children, Tamarla was forced to work as part of the state of Michigan's Welfare to Work program. This program was so successful in tossing poor people off welfare that its founder, Gerald Miller, was soon hired by the #1 firm in the country that states turn to privatize their welfare systems. That firm was Lockheed Martin. With the Cold War over and no enemy left to frighten the public, Lockheed had found the perfect way to diversify and the perfect way to profit from people's fears, with an enemy much closer to home. Poor black mothers like Tamarla Owens.
So you've got a one-parent family, and the mother's traveling 60 miles, an hour and a half away to go to work, an hour and a half to come home. How does that help a community? And but that's part of the state, making parents responsible, making them work for their
welfare to work.
Welfare to work. That's a program that ought to be stopped because it really has no merit. I think it adds more to the problem than it does to solve it.
Really?
You're
the sheriff and you feel this way?
I do.
Under the Republicans' new tax and spending law, people on Medicaid face new requirements. That includes work requirements for low-income adults. Although others have tried, Georgia is the only state that currently has this. WABE's Jess Mador looks into how it's going.
Tanisha Corporal isn't opposed to work requirements in principle, but then she left her job as a social worker to start her own nonprofit, and she came face to face with just how hard it is to meet work requirements.
I would have never thought that I was going to run into the challenges that I did with trying to get approved, because I'm like, I know the process.
Corporal had prediabetes and other medical concerns.
Because I have breast cancer in my family history, so it was like, I got to get my mammograms.
Then Corporal learned she qualified for Georgia's Pathways to Coverage program. It offers Medicaid to adults up to the federal poverty line if they can prove they're working, in school, or volunteering at least 80 hours a month. She was volunteering at least that much, so she gathered up her documents to verify her duties and hours and applied via the online portal.
And we were denied. I was like, this makes no sense. Like, I did everything right.
Corporal has a master's in social work, but even she ended up spending around 8 months fighting to get into the program, uploading documents only for them to bounce back or seemingly disappear in the portal. Denials and appeals. Here's just one of the denial letters she got.
Your case was denied because you didn't submit the correct documents and you didn't meet the qualifying activity requirement.
It was difficult reaching anyone at the state Medicaid agency to explain why.
Or they'll say they called you and we look at our call log. I'm like, nobody called me. And like the letter will say, you missed your appointment, and it'll come on the same day.
Corporal's application was finally approved only after she spoke about her experience at a public hearing covered by Atlanta news outlets. Now she has Medicaid, but she still has to recertify she's working or volunteering every month.
So yes, it's still a nightmare. Even once I got through the red tape and got approved, now maintaining it is bringing another level of anxiety.
Laura Colbert leads the advocacy group Georgians for a Healthy Future. She says Corporal's experience is typical.
People just can't get enrolled in the first place. And some folks who do get enrolled lose their coverage because the system thinks they didn't file their paperwork or there's been some other glitch.
She says reporting every month requires reliable internet access or transportation, both things low-income Georgians might not have. A spokesperson for Georgia's Department of Human Services said in an email that the state is rolling out a number of tech fixes to improve the process. Joan Alger is a health policy expert at Georgetown University. She says when Arkansas tried work requirements in 2018, it didn't go well. More than 18,000 people lost their coverage after failing to comply with the new requirements.
A lot of the problems were similar to Georgia in terms of the website closed at night. People couldn't get a hold of people.
And Alker points out national work requirements are unlikely to boost employment. More than 2/3 of Medicaid recipients already work anyway. The rest are mostly students or people too sick or disabled to work.
Work requirements don't work except to cut people off of health insurance.
And they cost a lot to implement. Georgia's been running Pathways to Coverage for 2 years. The enrollment system alone has cost more than $50 million. And right now, just under 7,500 people are enrolled. For NPR News, I'm Jess Mador in Atlanta.
Miami Gardens, Florida. Miami Gardens Police Department Chief Delma Noel Pratt held a news conference Thursday morning responding to discrimination allegations from a group of 5 quote-unquote Latino officers. Substitute that for white officers. We've been subject to transfers, demotions. Several of us were relieved of duty, including with no cause, a violation of the Bill of Rights. And this has been going on for several years now. Miami Gardens Police Department Sergeant Pedro Valdez said at a news conference with the group's attorney.
Now at 6, Miami Gardens police chief is fighting back against allegations of racial discrimination. This after 5 Hispanic officers announced plans to sue the city.
CBS News Miami's Peter Dench joins us live from Miami Gardens Police Headquarters. And Peter, the chief isn't mincing words here.
That's right, Elliot Lauren. Delma Noel Pratt says she has had some truly tough decisions to make since becoming police chief in 2017, and while in charge of more than 200 officers. But she insists that she has never discriminated against them on the basis of race.
I want to make it absolutely clear. These allegations are without merit.
Police Chief Delma Noel Pratt rejects allegations from 5 Hispanic officers who claim they were unfairly targeted, demoted, transferred, and disciplined without cause.
Every decision I make, as difficult as some may be, is rooted in operational necessity, not personal bias. And I do not operate in isolation. I receive ongoing information, recommendations, and performance assessments from supervisors, command staff, and internal systems that help guide those decisions.
The chief insists there has been equal treatment.
My job is to hold every employee accountable to the standards of this profession, regardless of whether they are Black, Hispanic, white, Asian, or of any other background.
The officer's attorney intends to sue the city. Are you worried about a federal lawsuit that might be coming?
Federal lawsuits, it comes with a title a lot of times. I'm not afraid of a federal lawsuit.
How do you feel about these allegations? Does it hurt you?
It is disheartening because, after all, we do such hard work in this department. We do good work in this department, and we do it with fairness.
Officers and police chiefs from 2 cities, including Miramar's Delrish Moss and North Miami's Sharice Gauze, joined Noel Pratt in a show of support. The officers' claims have not been substantiated by the city.
While I acknowledge the officers' right to voice their concerns, the demand for my resignation is misguided and misplaced.
Now, I also reached out to the office's attorney, Mike Pizzi, and he told me he's disappointed that the city and the chief have not addressed the issues. He says he plans to file his lawsuit within the next 30 days and told me I will see the chief in court. In Miami Gardens, Peter Dench, CBS News, Miami.
New audit that shows the need for more accountability when it comes to equity in Multnomah County. The findings point out different outcomes for different demographic groups, something workers say they've tried explaining to leadership. Data shows Asian employees less likely to be hired or promoted to become supervisors, Black employees more likely to be fired, and LGBTQ workers more likely to quit. This report has specific recommendations for each county department, as well as 16 county-wide recommendations.
Charges are filed in connection with the shooting at a McDonald's in Belleville, Illinois on Wednesday. 44-year-old Kathy Bledsoe is facing 1 count of aggravated unlawful use of a weapon. She was the manager there. And 35-year-old Tynika McKinzie, the mother of an employee, is charged with 1 count of aggravated battery and 1 count of mob action. Police say Bledsoe asked an employee to take out the trash, and when she refused, Bledsoe sent that worker home. The worker then contacted her mom, McKinzie, and McKinzie showed up at the restaurant with another juvenile. An argument took place, and police say that argument turned physical, and also say McKinzie beat Bledsoe in the head and the face, and during that altercation, Bledsoe shot McKinzie in the leg.
I am all right for working at McDonald's. Loving it. Gus T, Renegade, Context of White Supremacy, in for another broadcast, hopefully to share constructive information with non-white people, victims of white supremacy. This program is not intended for people classified as white. White people do not need to listen to the cows to replace white supremacy with justice. Today's date, Thursday, July 24, 2025. So I have been told. This is our weekly broadcast, Neutralizing Workplace Racism, not for spectators. Do we have anybody that works at McDonald's? Used to work at McDonald's? Anybody? Let us know. But not for spectators. You don't have to do no worrying about ICE agents running through your job, making sure that you are legitimate. You don't have to worry about brawls. You have a disagreement with somebody at work that they're not going to bring in area toughs, smack you upside the head, bust your forehead and all the rest of it, slash your tires, make you act right, and you don't have to worry about none of that. We have a disagreement. Everybody speaks their piece. We remain safe, professional, courteous. Maybe we don't sit together in the cafeteria for that day. And we move on. But if you are compensated correctly, you don't have to do no worrying about, dang, the black people don't get promoted, don't get raises. That's not you. You get all of your raises. You get all of the appropriate compensation that you are supposed to get. You don't care. I don't say it that way, but you are not directly impacted by no Medicaid to work requirements because you are gainfully employed and appreciated as a competent worker. Let us know, how did you do this? Share. Maybe we can figure out a few tips that we can utilize on our jobs. Get a raise, at least keep them from firing us this week. The number 720-716-7300. The code 564943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. Number again, 720-716-7300. The code 564-943#. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. If we have any McDonald's employees present, past, feel free. If you are having difficulties in the workplace and would appreciate a few thoughts, suggestions, how best to use counter-racist logic to try to solve problems without creating new problems in the workplace, let us know. 720-716-7300. The code 564-943#. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. The email untiljustice@gmail.com. You are concerned about being identified, might recognize your voice, want to keep your anonymity. The email untiljustice@gmail.com. Be sure to not name you. Can share your, if you have suggestions and or if you have difficulties, we can read your commentary, share it with folks, see if we either have input and or certainly if you have some tips that might be helpful to other victims of racism. Do not keep that to yourself. Let us know how you were able to bring all this about, especially if it kept you from getting fired, helped you get a raise, or anything else that is beneficial in the workplace. Do not be stingy, selfish. Share a teaspoon, if you could. Much obliged. Let's see. Few things, and then we will get to it. I guess number one would be I started off with McDonald's. That was one of the first things that I said. I said last week, we were talking about McDonald's and Jennifer Harris, the late mother of 6, cannot be understated. Maybe should have started with that, but black female mother of 6 black children killed while working at McDonald's. Now, the incident from last week, this was in Michigan. Black mom, black co-worker, Afeni Muhammad, who's 26. Neither of those is like ancient, right? Neither one of them is close to retirement age. But they're working together at McDonald's. Miss Muhammad, Miss Harris. They have a disagreement. Miss Harris is the manager. Miss Harris sends Miss Muhammad home. These are both black females. Miss Muhammad gets on social media, allegedly. They got the video where she's saying, oh, man, Miss Harris is a bully, and she messed me over with my hours and sent me home, and she's done this before, and this is messed up, and, you know, blah, 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 all the rest of it. And I said last week, you know, if you're upset about your job, unless it is in a problem-solving capacity, I do not advocate the rant videos or rage videos where you just go on and call out by name employees or your employer, the entire company, and their lane. Even if they're practicing racism, I would not do that. Again, same thing that I say all the time, like, unless you are comfortable with everybody in the organization having a copy of your social media posting, video, a transcript, it's going to be in 100 different languages, and this is going to be available for the next 100 years. Like, oh man, like, and even just for posterity's sake, like, let's say, whatever the issue is, let's say that the person you say is a bully, that they agree the next day, and she gets fired. You're still working there. Let's say, 10 years pass, and so now they're looking at, who is going to be the regional manager of, the McDonald's Corporation, big time job, 6-figure salary, and all of that. You get all the Big Macs you want, and you are one of the final 3 candidates. And then someone says, oh man, wait a minute. Didn't you have that social media rant talking about vengeance against another employee a few years back? I say, what? I say, oh, I got it. They had that in Spanish, I saw that in German, back in 2027. I said, let's put that up on the board. Let's see it.
And they roll back. Now they getting ready to decide, am I going to get this 6-figure job and all that? And they going back talking about when, man, but she sent me home and I got mad and I don't know. You got them temper body because you were 26 when this happened. So you can't even say that, you were 19 or 18 and 17 or whatever. You're 26 years old. You're a grown person. You can go out and get liquor and all the rest of it, can run for president. Like, where is your control at? Do you still have those sort of impulses of rage and all the rest? I don't want nobody thinking about that when they trying to think about who is going to be the candidate for the best job and get this big salary and all that. And that's what they think. Nah. You don't want to do that. Anyway, she compounded it allegedly by making this video, posting it online, and then allegedly going and stabbing to death Miss Harris in the restaurant, facing charges for it. We just talked about that last week, and I said anti-blackness. I said, man, that is Negro culture, one. And then two, out of all the incidents of racism, I said, I don't see white people come and smack us up around on the job all the time. Fire us. You can't get this job, and all the rest of it too. Calling us names. Don't update your software. Falsely accuse it. Just the list goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. I don't see no heaps of reports of black people coming in and we didn't bop, this white manager upside the head or this white person or whatever the case may be. I just don't see tons of reports, not on the scale of all the reports of racism that we talk about all the time. And I said, hey, or even let me give it proper order. I didn't say anything about that. Our resident valedictorian, non-Clemson dad spoke up and said, now, wait a minute now, Gus T. I remember the case in Virginia. You had the black fella who went and shot up people on the job. Absolutely right. They don't give out them valedictorians, right? Now, I messed the names up last week. The correct name, Dwayne Craddock, that is the black male who went Virginia area, shot up some of the co-workers, said he had been mistreated, had some difficulties of some sort. Dwayne Craddock, black male. I mentioned the name Andre Bing, who was also a black male, 2022 shooting in Virginia at the Walmart that we talked about, where he went on a rampage and shot up some of his co-workers at local Walmart. That happened, although I don't remember if he said that they were practicing racism against him. I have to go back. I do remember that there had been some mistreatment and he felt some incorrect things. He had been working there, I think, for like a decade. He'd been working for a long time. Not to disparage anyone who's got a lengthy and hopefully fruitful career at Walmart, but I don't hear too many people who stay there for like a decade. Like, wow, that's a long bit of commitment for the Walmart Corporation. Anyway. But that's one or two different cases. So Dwayne Craddock, Andre Bing, I said the wrong name last week, Andre Bing for the Walmart shooting, and then Dwayne Craddock, although these both happened in Virginia and relatively recently, early 2020s. Last week I also mentioned Omar Thornton, Connecticut, that's 2010. We talked about that case with Pamela Evans Harris, the late, and Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, black male who did explicitly say, man, you all are messing me over, practicing racism against me, retaliated with counter-violence. Omar Thornton, we talked about that case. Even with that is 1, 2, 3 cases over 15 years. I'm even add in, because we had a listener who said that a white person on their job called them a niggra, and he put them in a headlock and did the, Hulk Hogan, what you gonna do, did all that, okay? So I give you that one. Boom. One more. I even mentioned last week they had the black female during the Rona years. She was spraying Lysol on things and trying to clean up, be sanitary. And the white woman came and said, hey, I don't care about no Rona. That's nigger disease, and I don't social distance. You get on out of here with that Lysol. And she gave her a good solid forearm shiver. And the black female said, oh, my God. After she got her balance back, she cracked it with the Lysol and ran out, and they charged the black female. Now, I said, that's not really what I'm talking about, because that's kind of a self-defense thing. That's what the black female said. She shoved you first. That's, we move that to the side. But I can think of like 4. Even you double that to 10, like, okay, but that's over 15 years. It's more than 15 allegations of racism just like within the last 2 hours today. Like, that's over 15 years.
It's not an all day, everything. The racism against black people on the job is all day, every day. I do not hear no report. And I would challenge anybody, like, you should be able to find some, right? Can you all think about the cases of black people? Some white person messed over a black person on the job, and that black person, Willie said, nah, I'm not going to take it. And they had to get security and all the rest. Like, what? Let's hear it, because I'm not familiar with bunches and bunches of cases like that. I'm just not. We went back to back. Black females working at McDonald's get into some sort of verbal dispute. Fry machine, the frosty machine isn't working correctly. You aren't making the Big Macs properly, whatever. End of the day, we have a dispute, and the dispute ends in mortal combat. WTH. I mean, I don't even know what else to say. We went back to back. And I said last week, I said the reason I didn't mention any of those other cases, because I said, man, that's over 15 years. Like, it should be, hey, we do neutralizing workplace racism every week. I would think I would have racks of those types of cases of black people who snapped on the job and I just can't take it no more. And I do not. I do not. I do have a lengthy memory of black people snapping on other black people on the job. Leroy, I ain't gonna take it. Black culture, and we went back to back. I cannot emphasize that enough. We went back to back with the same employer, McDonald's, both times, darn near the same geographic location. We were in Michigan last week, Illinois this week. We went a car drive down the road to get the exact same event. Why Mr. Fuller has it up there, minimize conflict with other non-white people, and even, I have to go back, like, we can predate Fuller on this one. I contemplated playing, and maybe I should. We played it before, maybe I should. Carter G. Woodson has a whole section in his book that was written over 100 years ago. He talked about this explicitly. What is that? Anti-blackness in the workplace. We played a whole section. It's not quite a chapter, but it is a whole section, and important, sadly, still relevant over 100 years later. And he said, you get a black person and put them in charge on the plantation, and the other black, who do you think you are? You don't tell me what to do. You don't tell me I didn't clean it properly. How do you know I didn't do the chicken nuggets correctly? Negro, I will go upside down. We went back to back. We went back to back. We went back to back. Mortal combat at McDonald's with all black workers. Negro culture in 2025. Black and I'm proud. Pull out some Mad Dog 2020 for that one. Now, what happened here? Last week we had Jennifer Harris, mother of 6, killed by a 26-year-old black female. This time around, we get Kathy Bledsoe, 44. That's what I said. It's almost the exact same story. 44, working at McDonald's. She has a black female employee. They have a dispute about the trash. She sends her home, which is almost exactly what happened last week. Ms. Harris said they had a dispute. You didn't do your duties correctly. Sends her home. This time around, the young lady that gets sent home, she comes back with, or her mother comes back, Tynika McKinzie, allegedly, and she brings another child with her. Who do you think you are sending my child home? And all this. One of the reports that I read, Miss McKinzie allegedly follows Miss Bledsoe into the office at the McDonald's in Illinois and commences to whipping her upside the head. Boom, boom, boom. Busts a gash open on her forehead. She has to get stitches. And then Miss Bledsoe gets her firearm and shoots her in the leg. What? Is this like a summer job? Like, what? We got a shootout at the McDonald's? over a summer job? And she brought a minor along to participate in this beatdown or what? Woo, man. Negro culture 2025. Can I be explicit? Are you saying 2 weeks in a row? Neither of these incidents of mortal combat at McDonald's, both of them could have been erased if we had a white person as a manager as opposed to someone black. Yes, I'm not even saying anything like earth-shattering or what have you. This is exactly what Carter G. Woodson wrote in The Miseducation of the Negro over 100 years ago. Now, I'm fast forwarding a lot, but I mean, I'm just pointing that out that, hey, other people have noted this exact same pitiful observation about us, the Negro. Other people like who? Neely Fuller Jr. said, I have seen the exact same pitiful display. Who you think you is, nigga? I'll go get my brother and my cousin. And that had just been a lame, gay, transgender white person. It would have been another week on the plantation. Miss Harris would still be with us. We would not have had a shootout at the McDonald's in Illinois because a worker got sent home. That is what I'm saying. Pitiful indictment of Negro culture. I get to say it twice because we went back to back. In 16 years of broadcasting, we ain't never went back to back. Leroy wild out because he got fired unjustly in Florida and then came back the next week. Leroy's cousin Jamal in, you pick, Texas, Arizona, it's global, right? Johannesburg, mad. They laid me off, cut my hours. And, we ain't went back to back on that in 16 years. Maybe we missed it, all that. Hey, how many cases did I name? I named 5. They weren't even consecutive years. Omar Thornton is 2010. It's 2025. The people that we love to, I'm even reflecting all our time covering workplace racism. I've said, matter of fact, I just had somebody can I replay what I just heard? This was within the last 30 days. I had someone get sassy with me and say, look at here, Brother Gus. You waste all this here time talking about racism. I'm going to tell you the people that have mistreated me worse on my job, brothers and sisters. I said, amen, amen. We talk about that all this. That is reflected in our record. Absolutely. Jennifer Harris might give me an amen on that one. Amen. My black sister done killed me. My black children with 6 children and what? That's what you gonna do with me, my black sister? Whole lot of folks might agree with you on that one. All of that is a product of racism, the way that we treat and think about other black people. Carter G. Woodson pointed that out again 100 years ago, how we have been miseducated to think about and treat people who look exactly like us. Why I say when you go to the workplace, hey, these are not brothers and sisters. I don't care how much melanin they have. You look just like my cousin. You look just like my mom. You might be my mom. We're going to be professional and courteous. And I told you, Bron James said, Bronny, do not call me dad at work. You got that ball in your hand? I guess you call him first. I don't know. Bron James, sir? Not dad. You had to pick something else, but not dad. Proper code on the plantation. But most of us are not working with our parents or Bron. So That's not my brother. That's not my sister. That's not my cousin. That is another victim of racism, and that is that. There's no reason for me to think that they have my best intentions at heart. They might have a butcher knife in the car for me. Especially if I get that promotion, they're going to have 2 butcher knives in the car for me. If Gus T is up here talking crazy, you can let me know. You can reflect on your own workplace experience. What you think? What you think? What you think? Does this match your workplace experience, or Gus T up here talking fool talk as usual? It ain't fool talk with Jennifer Harris, because I just read what was in the paper. So that is not fool talk. And Kathy Bledsoe, that is not fool talk, because that also was in the paper. Many papers. Carter G. Woodson, I don't think is fool talk either. So you might have to do a lot to get Gus T. Maybe you need to rethink. You just on here talking bad about black people, us again. Well, either it's true or it's not. Have proper expectations in the word, especially when you're working with other black people. Like, whoo, man. Let's see. What did we hear from this week? The Democracy Now!, my BFF, Amy Goodman, gave the report on federal workers and being fired, and even folks at the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA. We will DEI you right on out of here. I cannot say it enough. If you are classified as non-white, regardless of what your job is, how much money you make, how many degrees you might have, and all the training, and it really looks like you have come a long way from, the Frosty machine, the chicken nugget fryer, or whatever. You have come a long way, and what an impressive resume and list of labor accomplishments. You can be fired in the next 5 seconds. And you don't have to do anything incorrect. You could be totally brilliant at your job. You haven't, raped anyone or violated, moral clause or anything of that. Nope. System of white supremacy. You could be fired in the next 5 seconds. That is very important to accept, acknowledge as a victim of racism. Saving, number one, so that we're not overextended and you bought everything that you can thinking, hey, I'm going to have this job for the next 10 years, and hopefully. But you could be fired in the next 5 seconds. That's it. But they talked to a number of federal employees. Again, white people do not get fired. They get transferred. I suspect many, many, many of these white people who are fired or laid off or whatever it is, they will be okay. They will be much better than Leroy and Lakeisha, who get laid off and fired, furloughed, whatever else. The other thing, that word I keep saying, confusion. When you have an environment, keep saying it, where for basically an entire year, you can get a large segment of people who are stressed, uncertain. Am I going to have a job? Oh, we've been fired. Oh, wait a minute, been rehired. Oh, no, we've been fired again. Man, you can really drive people insane. And it's difficult to think. It's difficult to focus when am I going to have a paycheck in 2 weeks? Am I going to have a job in a month? Like, what? You can really disrupt. And if other people, if they have children and all that, I mean, just the amount of stress and disruption that you can cause in someone's life. Man, you see white people worried about this, so you know it's got to be lots of non-white people really stressed by all of this and across the so-called country. They said also in that report, when they were talking about the EPA specifically, and cuts to that agency as a part of the so-called DEI purge, and they said, hey, man, the EPA, these good folks, they're supposed to be around, help us keep the air clean, and that now it's just people in the wealthy and affluent neighborhoods where they don't have to worry about all these types of pollutants, toxins, damaging their health and lungs. You mean the wealthy and affluent name? You mean where white people live, where importantly where there are no niggras, because I know they have a lot of data that shows that some of these toxic sites, really, you can tell where they're going to be placed just by the percentage of niggras that are present in those areas. So, yeah, well, yeah, and since they did mention Cancer Alley there, truth be told, the EPA has not been very effective at protecting non-white people in this part of the world from environmental racism. I think there have been a number of reports that have basically said that they don't have the teeth to, they don't have the so-called teeth to enforce their environmental racism charges and what have you as it comes to non-white residents. Heard that before about the system of white supremacy racism lacking the ability to enforce. Let's see. The next report where they talked to Shay Myers, white man in Idaho. Importantly, Idaho is 80% white. 80%. And Idaho is right. That I believe, I had to double check. I have been to Idaho before, briefly. Idaho is, I think, a part of the Pacific Northwest, because it is pretty close to Washington State, right? So I think it's part of the Pacific Northwest. I'd have to double check. Either way, it's pretty close. Way closer than the vast majority of other states out there in the U.S. Anyway, so we heard from Shay Myers in Idaho, 80% white, 0.8% black in Idaho. He says, Shay, he says, man, I went to school with undocumented immigrants, and, you know, some of my kids go to school with undocumented immigrants. Now, again, Idaho is 80% white, so I don't know how many of these so-called undocumented children he and his children go to school with, but whatever. And he said that the other Republicans, because he said he's a Republican, whatever that means, the other Republicans, they don't understand the reality of the immigrant life. You know, people that come over here and get these fruits and onions and radishes and help get that, you know, ribeye steak on your plate. They don't really understand the reality of this. Now, once again, we get ignorant white people. And it's ignorant about things because it's ignorant about things that white people are not ignorant about. Mostly the system of white supremacy racism. But white people are very aware. Where did this fruit come from? Veggies? All of that. I go to the farmer's market here, and they are very informed about all of that. I'm not saying every single white person, but certainly the more refined you go, they are aware. They know. Oh, yeah, Pedro and them, they come and do the seasonal picking and rah. This is what they want. White people have been talking and grousing about so-called immigrants and border patrol for decades, and that they were doing this like in the 20th century. They've been doing this forever. This is what they want. If they really wanted to switch this up, and we're not going to do this and have all these folks sneaking over and have all these undocumented people, and we do need these workers, so we'll figure out this is the correct way to do it, and we don't need to have all these ICE folks. They could have done that decade. They could have got this done back in the O.J. Simpson days, and we could have moved on to something else. This is what they like. They like being able to have. Remember, matter of fact, when old Shay Myers was talking, it was so many things that went through my head. Number one, that white people just lie. Most importantly, I would say, Idaho is 80% white. That alone, all that means, white genetic annihilation, that I know that's got to be a place where they got an aging population, the fertility issues. I bet y'all got closing schools. I know your children ain't going to school with no whole bunch of white children because white people aren't having tons of children. So if it's children there at all, you better be hoping some dark people are coming through there who got better fertility rates so that you have enough people, period, to get the lettuce, change a urine pot, all of that. Same thing we've been hearing in other states. Vermont, places, Wyoming, where we don't have enough people. White genetic annihilation. Certainly we don't have enough workers if we don't have enough people. But that was a big one in a state that is 80% white. But the other thing, do you all remember, it was like last year, maybe earlier part of last year, they had that image of black people. These are Haitians, and they had somehow got to the Texas border, and they had white people riding around on horses with whips. Y'all remember that? That's not workplace racism per se, but it's what they were talking about in that segment. You know, these folks hopping the border and illegally, but this is what they like. You got decades, literally decades of white people. I am a white man. I am a white woman. I am going to do my part for the empire of white supremacy. I am going to get a whip, a gun. I'm going to go down the border and get at these dark people. Get out of here. Get out of here. This is my country, my land. Get out of here. You got generations of white people who have done that. That, like I said, so I'm saying, like, this is what they like. And the Shay Myers part, I like having a vulnerable population of workers. I can do whatever I want with it. That's, I mean, the plantationness of it all. It's plantational. So plantational, see. I can go out and rape these workers, and that they do talk about that quite a bit. I can pay them whatever I want, shabby work condition, all of it, all of it, all of it. I like that. That's what I want. And if they get mouthy, hey, where's the ICE people? Yeah, because you ain't got no papers now. I have no uppity pickers now. And that could be, uppity could be a whole lot of that. You said no. What? Me too? What? Where is that ICE number? Because I don't do no uppity pickers now. Wait a minute now. What do you mean no? That's what I mean. Like that. This is what they like. Even you hear the deception of it all, because Shay Myers, 80% white, Idaho, for all that foolishness, and I got a podcast, sometimes I get my dark pickers to come on and tell us how great it is, and all that. Get out of here. They can show off how great their English is and all that old foolishness. Shay Myers said, I want this problem solved. Let's go ahead and get this done so we can find a legal way to manage the border and get the workers that we need, because we need these dark people to get this fruit, get my onions out the ground. I do like me a good onion. He said, I could not win my own party. I couldn't win. That right. How is this my party, so-called? If I know something that I say is important, this is an issue that I think is fundamental, hey, even to my business and livelihood, because I need workers, but my party, the majority, do not agree. How is this my party? Maybe I need to do that. Is Elon, y'all going to change it up, get that third party and make, you're going to do something about these immigrants so I get enough people to get this, get my onions? Maybe I need to I need to hop the aisle? The Democrats, y'all gonna do? I need somebody to get my onions. He didn't say I'm leaving this. No, this is I'm rolling. GOP is where is that? That's why I say the phoniness. White people could have solved this problem a long time ago. They don't want to. This is what they like. This is what they want. Exactly the way things are. Now, that same thing with the work requirement for Medicaid. And importantly, that's another one where we heard white people are ignorant. They don't understand. These work requirements, they don't even work. It seems like they might even waste money. White people already know this. Cue Bowling for Columbine, which I don't even think is a quality documentary about the Columbine shooting, but whatever. That segment, they're not even talking about Columbine. They're talking about Michigan, which is, what's the filmmaker for Bowling for Michael Moore. That's his home native state where he, grew up and such. So obviously got to get Michigan in. But he talks about Tamarla Owens, black mom in Michigan. She's on this work to get Medicaid, a welfare program there. And while she's going out to serve fudge to white people at the mall, her child gets a handgun, goes to school, and shoots a little white student. This becomes a big deal, blah, blah, blah. He includes that in Bowling for Columbine, which, whatever. But they said then, hey, it doesn't really work, and you're not getting good jobs. And, I mean, Jesus Christ, what is this for? Now we fast forward, that movie's almost 25 years old, and we right back at the same spot. Got to work to get Medicaid. And they said, hey, all this really does, because most of the people who are on Medicaid who are able, most of them work anyway. All this really does is drop people from Medicaid. What is the constructive value of that, particularly in a post-COVID world? What is the value of dropping people from Medicaid, particularly vulnerable people that might be lots of victims of racism and white sacrifices? What is the value? You didn't prove you got a job. You didn't work enough hours. No medical coverage. What is the constructive value of that? There is none. They said it in Bowling for Columbine 25 years ago, and they said it again this week. There is none, and it's kind of expensive getting these goofy programs to try to weed out people, lots of non-white people, weeding them out. Tanisha Corporal, she sounded like black female. That was audio, sounded like black female to me. I could be wrong. Weeding out lots of, either way, the vulnerable population is going to be non-white people, so there'd be some reasons why I'd be thinking it's probably black female that we heard. Can't get medical coverage, and then they make it cumbersome. You got to recertify and all this old nonsense and prove that you volunteered or worked in all this old nonsense. This is what they want. They being racist man, racist woman, racist child. Let's see. And she had to get press coverage too, Miss Corporal, to get approved for the coverage, Medicaid coverage. Let's see. And then the racial disparities in Multnomah County, that is right down the road from me in Oregon. That was the one where they talked about black people being less likely to get a promotion and so-called Asian people. I thought it was interesting because they did weave in LGBTQ plus, saying that they were more likely to quit their jobs. Now, I don't know. I don't know. White LGBTQ people, they are still classified as white, suspected racist, and I think saying white people don't get fired, they get transferred. I think a white transgender, queer, whatever, I think, yes, they would have a much easier time, even if it is, hey, man, I don't agree, man, and y'all won't let me put up my rainbow paraphernalia and all this old nonsense, and, you know, I'm out of here, man. You know, y'all cisgender, I'm done with it. Nah. They go get another job. They could go get another job way easier than Leroy, cisgender Leroy, so-called queer Leroy, bisexual Lakeisha, whatever, classified as white. I'm good. Got to throw them in there, a little confusion, conflation for the rest of us. But they say, because you put that, let me read that together with the very next sentence, right? So they say, LGBT employees who identify as part of the LGBTQ plus community were more likely to quit their jobs. According to data, the report also determined that workers who identify as Pacific Islander, Latino, or Black weren't hired to Multnomah County Sheriff's Office as often as their counterparts of other races and ethnicities. Now, see, if they had said that we don't hire no white LGBTQs at the rate that we hire the so-called straight white people, maybe. That's not what they said. They didn't even say nothing about firing or taking disciplinary actions against the LGBTQ people. You know, you tried to come in here and make us, participate in Pride Month, or we told you all no political paraphernalia and things posted, and you got all these flags and rainbows posted, and we told you 2 or 3 times you got to take all that down. We doing our DEI purge, and you wouldn't comply. They didn't say nothing like that. They said the LGBTQ people, they're more likely to quit. Okay. You don't even get a chance to quit if you don't get hired. And that's the very next sentence that they said about the dark people.
non-white, you can't even get a foot in the door to say, I'm out of here. This ain't for me. you don't even get the experience. See, that's why I'm saying they do that old conflation, sitting up the line. Hey, we in this ticket? Get out of here, man. Go back over to the parade. And how about that? How about that? You gonna do that? No sexual intercourse between white people and non-white people. Tell David Geffen that. How about that? We'll do something. Conflation. Get out of here. Let's see. Number again. 720-716-7300. The code 564943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. Now again, you reflect on your life and time, especially if we got any folks here that are I'd say if you got 20 years of work experience, that's enough. You got 20 years of work experience. Is that your, in terms of labor, just labor, that's what we're talking about. Is that your labor experience? Or like I said, is Gus T up here talking crazy? Did I spend too much time out in the sun this summer? Maybe I got bonked on my head, got a little CTE action going on, racism, white supremacy, maybe it done just, messed up my old brain computer and I'm just not using logic correctly. But you reflect on your workplace experience. Is that the case? People classified as black, we will come into that workplace, and if it's somebody else classified as black, oh man, all professionalism and decorum. Look here, Negro, you mess me over on my hours. I got some brass knuckles in the car. Your jaw will be swollen. You hear what I said, Leroy? Is that how we behave with black people in a workplace capacity? And then the exact same black people, exact same job, if Leroy get fired and they bring in a white person to manage LGBTQ plus or whatever, white man, white woman, white whatever, white wheelchair. And that person is now in charge, disabled and queer, and it ain't no money. You never hear nothing else about no brass knuckles. They might grouse or whatever the case, but it ain't going to be no. Now look here, Mr. Kennedy. I know you in that wheelchair and everything. You mess my hours over again, buddy. I'm going to slash your wheelchair tires, and then I'm going to get my brass knuckles, because Leroy don't even play that. Do we do that with white people in the workplace? I'm just saying, being truthful, that is not my experience at all. That is not my research experience. That is not my hosting this broadcast experience. Like, no, it all matches up the same. We act like that with other people who look like us. Lots of melanin. Oh, yeah. I double dog dare you to say something to me. I want you to say something to me. We can go out in the parking lot right now. Think I'm going to take a lip from somebody look like you. Now, you switch up and let a white person go, oh, morning, Mr. Kennedy. Good to see you. How you doing? Yes, sir. Nice. All right. Have a great day. You enjoy that summer. Great tan, too. Mm-hmm. I'm just pointing that out because that's something that you should also, unfortunately, big part of why there ain't no brother and sister in the workplace. And you have to tell the young people that so that they are not stunned. And then they end up in the work like, oh, my Lord, I thought we were cool. And then Shamika, she came in and bust me upside. I shouldn't laugh because, man, I thought, Jennifer Harris, that ain't funny. Mother of 6 ain't nothing funny about anti-blackness when you got a mother of 6 dead. And then it could have been the same thing happened this week. Kathy, you got to pull out a gun. That is Mortal Kombat. Somebody done bust your head. You got to go to the hospital and get stitches in your face. That's Mortal Kombat. Oof. But let me, Gus T up here talking crazy. Am I lying? If you can add to our list, black people, don't just do this with other black people. If a white person comes in there and talk crazy, we get our brass knuckles out for them too. Okay. About as often as you see an albino squirrel, but okay. Let's see. Folks who dialed in with a hand up valedictorian, non-Clemson dad, Double O Dimples, Mama C.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's see. Hey, Gus. Hey, everyone. Gus, you're correct. It is rare for black people to go postal on white people at work. I brought up the situation at Hampton Roads, in particular, Hampton Roads, Virginia, because I got a job interview there when I also got a job interview for the current job I have here in South Carolina. To me, that was proximity to death if I interviewed and got that job. Nevertheless, I have as much a better chance of getting killed in the workplace now with plenty of white people. Case in point, a citizen was escorted from the building for losing their temper with one of the other planners. I wasn't told who it was, but it's safe to assume that person is white. Work requirements are a major issue. Even if people are eligible, it can make it hard because of a lack of transportation. No matter how nice you are, eventually you will get tired of a friend, family, or random person asking you to ride them to work or wherever. And those who try to work, they might not get enough work hours between their 2 or 3 jobs to even meet the work requirement hours. Let's see, speaking of social media rants about the workplace, while driving home listening to the radio, the host said the First Amendment protects your speech from the government. And if I'm your employer and I don't like your political speech, I will happily fire you for what you said. I don't pay you for your political speech, even though that person might have said it off the job or on the internet away from work. Nevertheless, that person even if that person is paid and probably does their job competently, he was happy to say, as an employer, I will still fire you because of what you said. Let's see. Also, federal workers getting fired will affect the country more directly than you think. With more fired federal workers looking for jobs in the state and local governments and maybe the private sector, employers will have a bigger pool of potential workers from which to justify offering lower wages with the amount of people vying for not enough positions. We might even see a return to full-time minimum wage jobs that require a bachelor's or master's degree. Today, my transit agency board meeting started late due to technical difficulties, even though I arrived at the meeting intentionally late. So I stood for the Pledge of Allegiance, barf. Earlier this week, I signed my annual performance review, written by my manager. This part was written by my manager. And the next year, I would like, and referring to me, to take steps towards utilizing his PE, my engineering license, for the organization in the form of an LPA certification. An LPA certification means basically you can manage public projects on the state's behalf. Also, attendance to additional conferences will help with agency coordination when available. I also encourage looking for leadership opportunities to further develop political skills essential for career advancements within the region. I asked my manager for an example of leadership opportunities, and he responded like I'm pursuing certifications and licenses. I asked him, how is that any different than me having my planning certification and my engineering license? He said it doesn't hurt to pursue another. But he also encouraged me to pursue other opportunities like getting involved in professional organizations, maybe even to pursue elected offices in said organizations. The new planner director has no certification or licenses, but is required to get his planning certification within 1 year of starting as the director, though he does have a law degree. The effery is real. I've not seen political skills as a job requirement in any job descriptions. Remember last week how I said my trainer said that my CDL tester should be the safety person for the transit provider? Turns out that the position starts at $72,000 and maxes out at about $100,000. That means that the city working was going to work with. Basically, the city was going to pay the transit agency, if he would have went there, would have paid him roughly $72,000 as opposed to the $120,000 he would have preferred. Also, there are requirements with the positions usually when you start getting into management, at least at this local transit agency. For example, there is a work requirement for 4 years of progressive managerial experience or 4 years of experience at another transit agency before being promoted. The CDL tester, I doubt, has any of that experience, but the fact that they wanted him to come lets me know that when these employers went to make a look at past the requirements, that they have the ability to look past requirements if they feel the person is good enough to do the job. And I think that's it. I will mute my line.
One of our favorite terms in the annals of the cows, discretion. That is, activate white supremacy, racism. Like, hey, these are the job requirements. Maybe you have to have them. Maybe you don't. Hey, if this is a white person that we want, like the director's nephew or daughter-in-law, hey, requirements, schmeierments. But this is a black boy, even a valedictorian. See, yep. You don't have the requirements for political skills. See, you don't have that yet. Yep. Try again next year, black boy, and we'll sit. Maybe even you can go get a class at Clemson to make up for your deficiencies. See, man. Love it. Much obliged, non-Clemson dad. The escort from the building. Yikes. That's what I mean about workplace safety. Like anybody, call her at the courthouse or anywhere else where people come in and they get hot about whatever. You all didn't put a sidewalk here, or you messed up my omelet, or whatever, Man, what is the procedure? Like, what are we supposed to do? And all of that. Anything where it's okay. Security might have to be called. This is what to do. Once security is called, you do this. All of that. Like, man, oh man. Dangerous time. We already talked about disgruntled employees. The citizens, because these are total strangers. You don't know if they got a gun or a weapon or a brass nose. All of the above. Eesh. Let's see. The getting a ride to work. Man, I hadn't even thought about that. Man, I don't know. Do you all give people rides to work? Getting a ride to work. I know we talked about transportation being sometimes a prohibiting factor with regards to employment, if you can actually get to the job. Mr. Fuller talked about that in detail because he had a job where he could actually walk to get there day to day, which is, why he was able to stay there for so long, 30 years. But do you all give rides to work? If you have to get transportation, even that, because because of what I just said, disgruntled employees and all of that, I would be leery about everybody at work knowing like that's the exact physical address where Gus lives, like, yeah, I don't know. That would be something to think about. Certainly if you need transportation, but do you have them let you off like right in front of your house, a block over, like somewhere close? Do you give right? That would be one I'd have to think about too. Like, oh man, like I certainly would not want every so-called coworker in my vehicle. Like, we had a chat for this whole time. Like, oh man, chat about what exactly? Yeah, that would be something to think about, as well. Anywho, let's see. He said he had told us about they have the Pledge of Allegiance. Like I said, I really can't think of events where one is required to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Like, that's so bizarre. And he had told us about that before, where some of the white people think, this nigger. And so he comes in intentionally late, like they were waiting, like, oh no, we for sure make sure that nigger is going to say, he's old subversive, because last week he was up asking questions. I told you that, who is this nigger? Write his name down. Write his name. We're going to make sure. Like, oh, no. We waited, Leroy. Yeah. Now, let's say the pledge now that we got it. Yeah, keep an eye on him, make sure he says it, too. All right, now we can proceed with the business. Let's see. That is a logical point, I guess I would say, if you're going to have all these firings, especially, they've been saying it the whole time, firings of people who are experienced, well-trained, competent, weren't fired because they were dumb or embezzling funds or what have you. Hey, you got now a whole new group of folks to pick from, so you can depress wages. He said you might even go back. Hey, you might have to have a 4-year degree to do chicken nuggets now. Like, oh man, like that. And the bots are still coming. Let's see. The leadership opportunities. I love it. Really, any sort of skills acquisition or opportunities to apply learned skills and leadership for black people. Leadership opportunities in the workplace. Love it, love it, love it. Even though, I was thinking the same thing when the question non-Clemson grad asked, like, haven't I already been displaying some of these qualities? Like, I went out here and am getting my CDL and going out here driving the city bus so I can know more about how the city planning and how that works and be more experienced and have other resources of information that I can pull from. Like, well, yeah. But it doesn't hurt to do more. Like, man, you got to work twice as hard pointing out all that he's already done. And then, well, let's look at some of the white people that are already in these positions. What sort of skills and experience do they have? And frequently, none. Sometimes it seems like it's, is that the director's sister-in-law? Oh man, you get like that sort of old. Wait a minute, they were in the same fraternity at Clemson. They got the picture in the year. Come on, you just going to get in your old crony? Come on. And then find out they don't have no. That's nice, you got a law degree and all, but where's your leadership experience? Well, I'm white. Right on. I've led you niggers. Now, how about that? Facts. Let's see. And then we got the pay, because that came up last week where we were talking about black male who was intelligent enough. They were trying to lure him to come out. I forget, it's a week now, so I'm totally crisscrossed, but he was either in the county or the city, and they wanted him to come work for the region where he was not. And he put out the number that he wanted, and they were going to try and, I think he said something closer to that 120,000 figure. This was last week. And they were like, what? No, we didn't want Leroy for no 120,000. We were going to pay Leroy about 50,000. He talking about. He said, well, I'm gonna stay where I'm at. If you all are gonna do. And seemed like we heard the exact same thing this week, where we want to be on that low end of the scale, even if you're super qualified. You've already displayed, your leadership abilities. You have all of the work experience. You have all of the academic credits and what have you, certifications that you need or that we want. Hey, boom. You should be on the upper. Ooh, no, not for Leroy. Not for Lakeisha. Whatever the minimum part of that skill. There we go. And then for the old cronies and, like I said, director's daughter-in-law and such, sister-in-law, whatever it is. Oh, yeah, we should get that 100K, 120K, and you don't even have the experience and such. Like, wait a minute, come on. Where's your CDL? Heard that one. We didn't just hear this in South Carolina. We've heard this one over and over and over. System of white supremacy. This time around, we did not get an extra batch of black people attacking white people, because I didn't think of no new ones either. Been a week now, and I still didn't. Much obliged. Other folks with commentary to share. Number again, 720-716-7300. The code 564-943#. Press star 661. If you would like to participate, the email untiljustice@gmail.com. Let us know. Do we have any folks, past, present, you worked at McDonald's? Any folks, let us know. I'll do one email, then see other folks have commentary to share. Untiljustice@gmail.com. Let's see. Email number 1. Hi, Gus and Cal's audience. Good news, bereavement didn't get in the way of right-wing Ashley traveling 200 miles plus return, total 400 miles to participate in the volunteering day. I remember this one from last week.
Q&A session is over.
Oops, my fault. Sorry about that. Clicked the wrong button. Sorry. There we go.
Q&A session has started.
There we go. Correct button pressed. Thank you. I remember this one from last week where right-wing Ashley, she was supposed to have her performance evaluation. And so she called in and said, oh, man, I had a death in the family, need to postpone. And I said last week, man, that sounds kind of suspicious. Really? Because it was thought that she might get, low reviews on her performance review. You're kind of shiftless and lazy. Get your act together. I don't know. I'm sensitive and y'all are going to be mean to me. So that's what it seemed like to me. I said this last week, and then it was confirmed because she's not going to come in for her performance review, which I think is important, but she is willing to travel all these hundreds of miles for some nonsense, wasting gas and all the rest of it. And I said, man, if it's a death and that's serious, oh man, whoa, don't be traveling, stay there with the family and get that straight and, be there to support everybody and take care of yourself. And that's a long way to travel. If, you're emotional, you might have to stop on the side of the road and, that's not cool. 400 miles round trip. Get out of here. She continues. She loved it so much, she did the same journey yesterday to have lunch and leaving drinks with someone else who's found a new job. Zoe is also investigating whether right-wing Ashley booked hotel accommodation, which she wasn't authorized to do, just travel costs. Something right-wing Ashley said during the conversation gave Zoe the impression that she did book a hotel for the weekend and bought her boyfriend with her at the company's expense. That's what I'm talking about. And that's the sort of thing because I have heard even other black people say that, hey, black people, we go to a job and we get over, man. We'll steal all the paper clips and, if you don't watch out, we got all the company paper in the car and anything else that we can, man, please. In 2025, I would not steal a rubber band from the company. They got cameras everywhere. I can guarantee you will be Craig from Friday, and they will say, yes, we got you on camera stealing boxes or paper clips or whatever. Not just you're fired, you're going to be criminally charged as well for stealing boxes. That's what it'll be. So, it is people classified as white who can thief, not just on the job, but anyway, they can loot the entire, and it's not going to be, they stole a few rubber bands, a few paper clips. It's going to be, dang, they took the whole pension. We can't even get our paycheck this week. And took all the company chairs. Dang. That's the sort of, theft that we're going to be talking about. We've heard this from the same. She had said they had other workers. They had took the petty cash, went out to the pub. They had got money. They were supposed to use it for workplace constructive activities. They went out to the pub, strip club, and all this. What does it mean to be white? And I've heard that repeat for years. That's standard operating procedure with white people, whatever. Continuing. I, on the other hand, spent last Friday going over the work I've tried to get right-wing Ashley to do for the last month. The quality of her work is so poor, I cannot trust anything she presents. I had a terrible headache because I was angry at the realization that I am the fool. But I continue doing her job because I'm sure she's trying to undermine and sabotage me in addition to just being incompetent. I'm continuing to document her errors in addition to making it clear I'm writing that I've had to step in so that the project, which is a high priority, can move forward. Right-wing Ashley had been told to document what we discussed in meetings after she lied about me authorizing her to give advice to someone which she is unqualified to give. Now that I'm documenting, and the fact that I'm highlighting how incompetent she is making right-wing Ashley anxious. Her performance appraisal went as expected. Badly. Zoe gave me the download after the meeting. Right-wing Ashley cried. Oh, man. Gee whiz. It does not get any worse than the weeping white woman in the workplace. Like, come on. Unless you're being fired. And even then, like, security, like, come on. They fire people by the thousands now. Like, maybe we could have left you out in the parking lot, not even giving you a brown box. Like, get it together. Come on. But she's not even being fired. It's like, hey, man, stop being lazy and shiftless. And, maybe if you took some of these notes instead of acting a fool, you could improve your performance. We wouldn't have to keep going through that. Hey. Till you get your workplace performance up to snuff. Maybe you don't need to be driving 400 miles for foolishness. Anyway, her performance, so she starts the crying within the first 10 minutes and blamed me for the anxiety. It's always the niggra. The last time Zoe and I gave her feedback she didn't like that she went to occupational health to get another diagnosis to add to her list of conditions that fall under the neurodivergent category. She also got examples of best practice and how to give feedback to her so that we, really me, know how to speak to her. This time around, right-wing Ashley went to a neutral health advisor and she doesn't feel safe with me. Wow, that is my word, safe. Say, this niggra is unsafe. I love it. Let's see. I'd already decided it wouldn't be safe for me to meet with her alone. Brilliant. I agreed with Zoe that I would stop doing one-to-one meetings with right-wing Ashley, as after 9 months of direct support, she would be able to do her job without that level of supervision, and Zoe agreed. Now that right-wing Ashley has made those claims using the coded language of not feeling safe, there's absolutely no way Zoe did push back on her during the meeting about her claims about me and Zoe's treatment towards her. I am right-wing Ashley's main target for the moment. Right-wing Ashley said she was thinking of having a one-to-one with me to have it out. What? She reminds me of a chubby version of Brenda Spencer, who in 1979 was the first school shooter in America. Dang. I hope, what? Is she packing? Like, what? Do you think she might, go on a rampage? Like, man, that, The Gift of Fear, Gavin DeBecker, like, that is, if she gives you that sort of energy, I mean, yeah, I don't know. That's serious. Did she talk about handguns or anything? I don't know. That's rough. Let's see. Zoe says she planned to tell Phoebe to take right-wing Ashley off the projects I lead, which I'm happy about. Phoebe later asked to speak next week to discuss it. Zoe also caught her in another lie about the travel visa. Apparently, right-wing Ashley let slip that the visa has been sorted a month ago. She had to go to the same 200-mile trip, which Zoe questioned as it would have been during the working week, and Zoe hadn't authorized leave. Zoe deduced that right-wing Ashley took sick leave and questioned her on it. Master deceivers. During the conversation, right-wing Ashley said that she was worried that Phoebe and Tristan, my boss, now think that she's a liar. Well, are you? She'll say similar things at times when she's concerned that people who she has a level of respect for are becoming aware of her shenanigans, so she tests our reactions to see if we've exposed her. What in the... Jeez, all that, like, wow, I'm not even interested in all of that. Like, what lies are you telling today? And, trying to, like, I think the caller at the courthouse had told us, like, he had a white woman, I think she's retired now, but she was doing, like, experiments. She would wear the same clothing to work day after day to see who was going to gossip and try and snitch on her. That type of thing. Like, I'm really not here to keep up with wardrobe or what you said yesterday, and it's not the same, and I am trying to make as much money as I can, avoid being fired and mistreated, learn constructive things like keeping up with your lies, and other than, this is a dangerous person here, deceptive, better steer clear of her. Other than that, like, what are you even talking about? Like, sounds like you're doing a whole lot of wasting time. Like, what in the world? What does it mean to be white? Lie all the time. Man, master deceivers. Much obliged for the email. The address again, untiljustice@gmail.com. The number 720-716-7300. The code 564943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. As we proceed, one will be here tomorrow. Greg Olson's If Loving You Is Wrong, Mary Kay Letourneau, Seattle History. Some of that is workplace racism too, since she was at school. That's, her job. Mandatory teacher. Even there, it was so many white people who were aware of what she was doing and did not report. That's another reason why I say if you observe any sort of violation of policy and procedure, which would include a violation of criminal law, even constitutional law, really, you should report immediately for a variety of reasons, even the Mary Kay. You want it on record. As soon as I saw this, like, man, they said they had a janitor. He was there, cleaning up the school, working, and everybody who works at a school is supposed to be a mandatory reporter. You want it on record. Like, I saw this, I reported. What we heard last week, janitor who saw this said, I didn't report. She's a teacher. She looks so trustworthy. I remembered it, and it was odd, but, she verbalized it, and we're just here, and he was having trouble, and blah, 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 and she worked here. She's perfect and blonde and white, and I'm Negro, and, all the rest of it. But, man, anything incorrect, report. And I've said some of this, even you can think of it not in a I'm a snitch, and I'm just no. This is out of self-preservation, for one, just because I've said so many times, they're trying to blame you, say you had something to do with, like, whoa. I'm just reporting to make sure nobody gets in trouble, namely me, but nobody gets in trouble, and if there is a problem, it can be taken care of quickly so that hopefully nobody gets in trouble, again, mainly me. And if it does come out that, whatever, there was a problem, blah, 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 my name can be one of the first ones that was about justice, and hey, Leroy saw this, tried to get a stop on this here thing. Right on. That's why I say I'm always about report if you see anything incorrect, any violations of policy and procedure in the workplace, and that S word again, safety. For your own safety and everybody else's, things that are not things happening in the workplace that should not be happening. Frequently, they can cause safety hazards. Let's see if we can get a stop on this immediately. Anywho, let's see. So we'll be here tomorrow. Could have stopped Mary Kay much earlier. We'll be here tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific for the Catherine Massey Book Club, and then Saturday, compensatory call-in, same time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. catch up on news observations from the past week, 7 days. And then this past week, Neutralizing Workplace Racism, retired firefighter, he dialed in, he was telling us about the report down in Miami, Florida, so-called Hispanics, he thinks people classified as white, are alleging that they're being mistreated. The Miami Gardens Fire Department or Police Department saying that they're being incorrectly transferred, not being given the shifts that they wanted, and blaming this black female, saying, she's practicing racism, against them. And I said last week, man, there are tons of suits. It seems like a growing number that are in the workplace, specifically with people classified as white, where they allege, hey, we are the ones who are victims of racism. You got these old, black employees, manager, supervisor, whatever it is, and when they give out the promotions, when they give out the raises, when they make the schedules and such, I always get the short end of the stick. Me and the other white sisters, white brothers, or even if it's just me individually, they always mess us over. And I said, it seems like it's a growing number of these types of cases, and they are often successful. We heard the one from Miami today, but I think even within the last week, I think I saw a number of those cases being reported like recent. I said, man, you just keep an eye right there to see what happens with some of these. Do they win? Because I've seen where they get like bounties of money for all of this and claiming, they messed us over, and they didn't give us the position. They just are trying to hook up black people on the job, and hook up all their black friends and black brother-in-laws and that sort of thing. Growing up, you pay attention. I would just take notes and see if they have one of these cases. Do they win? What's the settlement? And even what sort of evidence do they have that they were a victim of racism somehow? Reverse discrimination, that's what they'll say. Any hoodles, let's see. See if other folks, let's see if we have any McDonald's employees as we, proceed. See if other folks have commentary to share. Cannot emphasize enough. Talk to your children about the workplace. Talk to your children about racism for sure, but talk to your children about it. You could just talk about your experience. You don't have to start with today and the most traumatic, but I mean, you can go back to some of the first job that you had, early lessons that you learned, things that you would do differently now, given that you've worked a little bit and you've learned hopefully a few things that have been helpful in your career. Talk to them about this, and hopefully you can talk to them about some of these things before they start working, so they're already thinking about this before they even start their entrance into the area of labor. Like I said, they can think of school. They can apply maybe some of these techniques as they're moving through school if they go to the big school environment type of a thing. Then once they actually start their career, there will be an established pattern where they will be accustomed to having dialogue with you, their attempted parent, about counter-racism on the job, how racism operates in the workplace, how it can be neutralized. You already kind of get them acclimated to that sort of thinking and dialogue, and then, hey, they'll be ready to call. Like, oh man, this happened, and this is what I did. This happened, this is what I said. What do you think about this? This happened, and I don't know. I said, man, I'm gonna call once I get home and see what dad thinks, see what mom thinks, boom, boom, boom. That sort of, that's, And if you have, siblings, hey, call you all can share. You take 30 minutes, share about your workplace. They take 30 minutes, share about their workplace type of thing. And then you all can swap, ideas, texts, all that sort of thing. But I think that is very helpful as opposed to so many people being isolated, not having resources, not having folks that they can talk to about how they're being abused in the workplace. And even more importantly, when you can start those conversations early, and talking to them doesn't have to be a mystery. You don't have to go get books from Harvard and pile up a wish list on Amazon, give Jeff Bezos, thousands of dollars. None of that. Talk to them about what happened to you on your job. Just that right there sets the foundation. You can include it all. Hey, is it true? Do black people and anti-blackness, is that a major problem in the workplace, if you are classified as black, is anti-blackness from other people classified as black, is that going to be a major problem in your work career? Yes or no? Talk about direct experiences that you've had. That's another one where you can really, hey, so this happened. Me and Leroy got into it, and man, next thing I know, I had him in the headlock, and who you think you talking to? No. Man, if I had it to do over again, because we both got fired, could have been criminally charged. If I had that to do over again, we would have never got started talking about no LeBron James. I'm laughing, but oh my God, I know that is true. Now, I do also know that some people have gotten to arguments talking about Obama, Trump, tariffs, whatever, COVID, whatever, masks. But first thing I said, Bron James or whatever, sports athletic related. That did happen. I'm embarrassed. Bron is embarrassed. If I had it to do over, I wouldn't have been talking about no sports to begin with. We can talk about Bron or name call him. We can do that, some other place. That's embarrassing to be in work and we sitting up here in fisticuffs talking about a child's game, basketball or something. Or even if it had been Obama, that's no better. We're up here talking about the election and he mad saying you voted for that coon. I said, you don't call my president no coon and give me the lead. That's no better. That would be the same thing. That happened. I'm really embarrassed. We both got fired. Could have been criminally charged. This is how I would have handled that. If I had it to do over again, as soon as he asked, who'd you vote for? I said, hey, I don't even talk about politics in the workplace. Hey, come on, man. We've been cool. Come on. Who you vote for? Come on. I don't even talk about politics in the workplace, man. Come on now. Let's get back to it. It's going back on to it, That's what I would have just kept saying the same thing, and they could have said whatever, like, I don't even talk about no politics, man. If they had kept on me too hard, man, I got to go to the bathroom. I try and drink all this water. Nature calls. I'll talk to you in a minute, Leroy. We both would have kept our jobs, no criminal record. We keep on. We could have been managing together, Got all that experience. We'd still be friends on speaking terms because now we ain't spoken 20 years, me and Leroy. That sort of thing. Like, could have handled it way better. You tell your children that so they don't make that mistake. Like, okay, no talking politics on the job, no talking sports. We're not going to get into no fisticuffs about, I lost money on the game, or none of that. We just talk about things related to the workplace. Great. And you just go from there. Other things that you've learned, and you just say it plain, minimizing conflict with non-white people. That's supposed to be the top of our list anyway in the system of white supremacy racism. That should go like double in the workplace because, we're really not trying to have conflict. We're trying to make as much money as possible, learn as much as we can that's constructive, mostly about the system of racism. Nowhere in there is it, name call non-white people in that process, stab up a few non-white people in that process. Nowhere in there. I would say, if anything, make sure you're not going into this thinking me and all the black people, we going to be best friends. We're going to be like a family. Make sure I minimize conflict with them. That's about the best. I'm going to do the best that I can to make sure we don't have no conflict, no fisticuffs. We just keep it courteous and professional. If I can help them, I will do so, but courteous and professional. That's the goal with the other black people, non-white people, victims of racism on the job, courteous and professional. And that's really the goal with everybody. Courtesy, professionalism, consistently. Doesn't get any better, especially in the system of racism. Hard to get any better than that. Any hoodles. We'll give folks another 5 or so, see if they have observations, commentary with regards to the workplace. We have any McDonald's employees? So we went 2 weeks in a row, Mortal Kombat at the Golden Arches. And like I said, hey, if Gus T is up here talking nonsense in the middle of July 2024, if he is up here just talking full talk, that ain't no anti-blackness in the world. Goodness well that a black person will go upside a white person's head on the job just like anybody else. You come up here and mess with my money, and boy, I will put that Hulk Hogan body slam on you
quicker than you can say what you're going to do, brother. Brr. Okay, you can let me that at minimum. Like I said, especially if you got 20 years experience on the job, and you know, like, oh no, nah, brother Gus, I done seen tons, and I mean, I got some in my family member, if not me myself. I done knocked out about 3-4 white people, males, female. I hit that one white brother who was in a wheelchair. I came in there to get my check. I saw all them zeros in the wrong place. Looked like they gonna pay me 50 cents, and I done worked 80 hours that week. Boy, I came across the cow. They had to get security in there. That wheelchair went one way. He went the opposite way. I haven't seen that. I haven't read about that. But you can let us know. My experience, like I said, it's undisputed. We don't cut up like that with people classified as white on the job. We do not. That's exclusively reserved for other black people that we have been trained to despise. You certainly ain't got no authority. You ain't in charge of nothing. Leroy, Lakeisha, I might not know what racism is, but I know on this here plantation ain't no nigger in charge. You neither. Tell me nothing about when to tell me you gonna send me home. You don't own no McDonald's. Who is you? That's the way that we think about. It's pitiful, but I mean, that's the way that we have been trained to think about black people. They're worthless. They're nothing. I'm worthless. I'm nothing. I'm not in charge of nothing, so you not either. You're not going to tell me nothing. It better be somebody white in charge. That's the way that we have been trained to, think and act. For centuries, like I said, Carter G. Woodson said this over a century ago. But if that has not been your experience, please speak up. Let us know. And or if you have other, thoughts to share, suggestions, the number 720-716-7300. The code 564-943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. The code 564-943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. I'll keep an eye on the email as well if other folks have observations, suggestions to share. I'll let folks know again for the summer, because I know in Chicago, we're just talking about the book Heat Wave, and it's 30 years since they had that massive heat wave in Chicago with 739 deaths, and they're currently having a heat wave in the Chicago area. Same thing I've been saying for a few years. That might be the act of black self-respect if you're in one of those regions to speak that S word, safety. To speak up about that if you're on a job, that might mean safety in terms of breaks. That might mean safety in terms of a change in the work schedule. Maybe we work a little earlier or later, or we have to take hours off during the middle hot part of the day, wherever that is, whatever time that is in your region. But 739 people died when they had that heat wave 30 years ago in Chicago. That's 1995. So, and they're having triple-digit heat right now in the Chicago area, Illinois. So that's right down the road from the Belleville McDonald's, where they had the kerfuffle with Miss Edmonds, Kathy Bledsoe and Tynika McKinzie. That's in Belleville, Illinois, right down the road from Chicago. But anyway, I would just encourage folks, black self-respect, speak up. If it's water, shade, breaks, all of the above, but that heat is deadly, especially when you're talking, humidity and 90s, triple digits. All of that is deadly and nothing to play around with. The plantation is unsafe, and for some of these regions, now Chicago can't say this, but for some regions, hey, we're not accustomed to having high heat like this, so we don't really have the know-how in terms of dealing with this and how dangerous all this is. Chicago, they should be very aware. That might even be one
They should read that in public school. Heat wave, about what happened and how to have all those people die in this relatively recent history. Man, that is super something to take serious, and especially in a work environment. You work in a job and they don't have air conditioning, or you're required to be outside all day or parts of the day for your job. Oh man, speak up. That is the black self-respect right there to keep yourself safe in the work environment. Really, nothing else matters if you don't make it home in one piece. I mean, man, that goes for a lot of ways. You get dehydrated, end up getting sick, and all that. Like, come on. You thought you missed some hours before. Anyway, take the heat, white supremacy, racism, and the heat seriously. Summer of 2025. That's it. Any other commentary? See, I said give folks about 5 minutes, see if they were spectating or what have you for their summer. Any other observations, commentary folks want to make sure that they get in? See here. I think folks are spectating. I'll say again, if things are that great, you have not been furloughed and you haven't been a part of any DEI purges in your workplace, you seem like you will be gainfully employed at least as we get ready for autumn. Like, hey, I might even get a few more paychecks to ride out the summer. Grand. Let us know, how did you accomplish this? What have you been doing, saying? Any tips that you can pass along to other victims of racism? Please share. You can drop an email, untiljustice@gmail.com. And then if you are, hey, they're not mistreating you specifically, you get all of your raises and promotions correctly, make sure you invest in the cows. Hit the blog, racism-notes.blogspot.com, racism-notes.blogspot.com. PayPal button in the top right corner. You'll see the links for Cash App, Venmo, and PayPal right beneath the button. Enormous gratitude to all of the investors who kept us broadcasting 16 years, hopefully worthy of your time and energy. You can also hit the wish list at Amazon.com. It's listed under Gus T. Renegade. Enormous gratitude for all the folks who have nabbed an item or 12 over our 16 years of broadcasting. Again, hopefully we've been worthy of your time and energy. We'll be here on Friday, 5th installment, Greg Olson's If Loving You Is Wrong, Child Rapist, Suspected Racist, Mary Kay Letourneau, Seattle History. Looking forward, same time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And Saturday, compensatory call-in. Looking forward, catch up on what's happened over the past week. With that, looks like folks are spectating. I don't see hands, what have you, to share about things that have happened in the workplace. Any hoodles, if you have archives and such, or if you are listening via archives, feel free, write down any of the folks out there. If this, what Gus said specifically today, like this doesn't match up with your research, your lived experience, maybe you're in a different part of the world, or even if you're in the U.S., whichever, but you can feel free, drop an email. Now, you see black people being rowdy and such with white people on your job? Really? Where are you? Exactly, that would be good. But if you've seen that in your whatever career and such, let us know. But I am sticking to that one. Like, oh man, we do not get all, man, I will put my knuckles upside your nose, and generally that's other dark people. Our colleagues, co-workers who have a lot of melanin, that's how we talk to them. We don't talk to no white person on a job. Generally, we don't talk to no white person like that at all. But especially not at work. That's just, Gus, like, let me know if Gus is up here being goofy. Let me know. Untiljustice@gmail.com. You can read your commentary next week, and or you can dial in let us know. Hopefully we will not go back to back to back. Hopefully everyone at McDonald's can behave themselves over the next week so that we don't have to hear anything else about black employees in McDonald's, going wild. I'll even make sure I get on the record. I did not do anything to search out anything about McDonald's or violence in fast food or anything like that. I checked the news as I normally would, and boop, it popped up. Even for a moment, as I saw the report, I did pause briefly. Is this the report about Jennifer Harris that I'd already read last week? But then once I saw that this is something that happened in Illinois, and I knew, the Jennifer Harris case happened in Detroit, like, oh, this is something else. Not really, but yeah, this is a separate case. Black culture, indeed. Sobriety would be best under conditions of white supremacy. We need to preserve our brain computers as best we can. Cigarettes, cannabis, mad dog, none of that is good for our health, well-being, or brain health. Creator, we ask that you help us desist. Stop saying not all white people are racist. Stop name-calling black people. Stop producing throwaway offspring to be raped by Mary Kay Letourneau. Stop gossiping, especially stop gossiping about black people in the workplace. That right there leads to a good number of the kerfuffles and such between non-white people and other non-white people in the workplace, sitting around gossiping and such. Get back to, let's just talk about the job, nothing else. Replace white supremacy with justice immediately. Cow signing out. Thanks all for tuning in.
Nigga, you so brainwashed. I'm a victim, brother. You're a victim. I'm a victim of 400 years of conditioning. Shut up. The man has programmed my conditioning. Even my conditioning has been conditioned.